guys, Rasati out here in Singapore, and guess what? This is the second time I'm recording this because obviously at some point I was trying to keep the screen on and I hit the pause button. Brilliant, right? I've been talking my ass off and I didn't even know that it didn't record. Anyway, I'm back. Mostly because I feel like I need to say this. Quarantine, people be in their feelings, man. People be thirsty as hell. All these thirst traps being posted all over the internet and stuff. Y'all want attention. I get it. I get it. And what's the number one thing that people come and talk to me about? Their love life, their romantic relationships, or lack thereof. And most of the time, it comes down to a simple thing. If you find yourself on the outs with a lover, maybe they dropped you, maybe you dropped them, maybe something happened that was out of your control, and now the relationship is no longer the same. It's changed. It's weird. You're not happy with the way it is. I get it. And sometimes you have to come to grips with the fact that you're not going to get the apology you deserve or the explanation for why. Sometimes they're going to disappear off the face of the earth and you're not going to be able to say anything about it. You're not going to be able to get them on the phone again. So you got to deal with that on your own. So how do you grieve when you don't have the other person to interact with? Honestly, the grieving isn't for them. It's not answers that they can provide you. The grieving is for you to understand the place of that relationship in your life right now and what it was meant to teach you. And that sounds real like, what is that word? Theoretical and all that. But let me explain something. My first relationship was in college. I didn't have a boyfriend until I was like 19, okay? And even then it was not expected and I wasn't looking for a relationship and he just kind of started pursuing me. And it was kind of cool because no one ever pursued me. I was gangly looking and really tall and skinny. I was all elbows and knees. I was not cute at all. And people used to make fun of me. I was bullied on the bus until the 12th grade, man. Until graduation, okay? So I had it rough. And I'm not saying, oh my God, poor me. I'm saying this is the context under which I fell for the first guy. And trust me, when I fell, I was with him for 8 years, okay? Anyway, bottom line is, when we broke up, and I did break up with him, there were some questions I still had. There were some things that didn't add up in our relationship. I broke up with him because he was cheating on me. And I wanted to go back and ask why and what for and what the hell was going on. And I wanted to fix the relationship we did have, but I couldn't. I couldn't get him on the phone after that. It's funny because we were engaged. And I was in close communication with his mom. His mom still contacts me and checks on me and sees how I'm doing. But I can't get him on the phone. I haven't spoken to that man since 2003. And every so often I have dreams of him and I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, I haven't thought about this man in forever. And why is he even popping up? Why? Because there's a lesson in there somewhere that I haven't still learned. Because it repeated itself in my marriage, which was right after this relationship. I had to go back and figure out why I was so bothered by this relationship, why I allowed him to treat me the way that he did, why I was so worried and paranoid and jealous. But I didn't show any of it because guess what? I was afraid that showing it would drive him further away. I was living in such a way that I just wanted to keep him. And it wasn't that I enjoyed the company anymore. We were fighting all the time, but I did not want him to leave me because of what that would mean. And so I had to start learning to ask myself why and understand what those feelings meant. Sometimes you feel jealous. Sometimes you feel desperate and anxious. Sometimes you feel depressed because you don't have the kind of life and luxury that you were hoping that you would have. A lot of times you got to explore those feelings. So when you're going through grief and you don't have the other person who's in a good enough space where they can sit down and talk to you about it, you got to figure it out for yourself. A lot of it is a lot of why. And it's not fun because after a while you're like, ugh, this hurts too much. I want to do something else, anything else but this. But guess what? Most times when I'm talking to someone, a client of mine, a friend of mine, any of you guys, I'm the one who has to hold your hand and lead you back down that garden path for you to feel all those stupid feelings you felt back then, only to understand why you felt them and what they meant to you. It's my job to help you understand the meaning of that relationship in your life and what it's meant to teach you going forward. So shall we take a trip down memory lane with me for a second? Because I went through a situation where I was feeling that if I just did everything he needed me to do, if I was everything that he said he needed in a woman, he'd never leave me. Guess where I got that idea from? My mom. So it was a story I was telling myself the whole time, and I couldn't fathom for the life of me why he would leave me because he didn't have to beg for sex. He didn't have to ask me to cook for him. I cleaned up after him. We lived in a house together. I mean, I took care of everything. I paid half the bills and he paid the other half. And on paper, it looked legit. But the feeling wasn't there. The emotion, the connection wasn't there. The intimacy was missing. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out why. So I had to start digging deep. And this is after the fact. After the fact, I'm looking at like, yeah, but why was I so jealous? Why? Because the fact that he would even turn to look at another woman, but hide it from me, meant that he was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing. And I knew it, but I was trying to turn a blind eye and be like, yeah, well, boys be boys. And I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? And from there, I was thinking, you know what? Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I mean, everyone goes through this, right? And so I started making excuses for him, not exploring the feeling of inadequacy that I had in myself. Now, growing up, I was tall and gangly. No one actually looked at me, right? And I thought that that's all that there was. And suddenly this man out of nowhere decides he thinks I'm kind of interesting, and I ate it up, absolutely. Why? Because I've been abandoned before. When I was little, my mom and dad left me with my grandparents. And I'm not saying I hate them for it or anything, but I didn't understand at the time. And it was a long time before I stopped telling myself that they didn't love me enough to take care of me. I wasn't good enough to be taken care of. Yeah, my self-worth was tied to that event. And that was until I was 5. I didn't go to live with them until I was 5. So I was at this loss. I was in this place where I thought, well, here we go again. It's repeating another pattern. My mom and dad didn't even think I was good enough. Of course he's going to leave me. What makes me interesting enough? And the point was, I just repeated the same pattern over and over again and didn't realize that I was self-sabotaging the relationship. The thing that my mom had told me about being all that you could be so they wouldn't leave you was wrong. Because I did it again in my relationship with my husband. And I did everything so well that I didn't actually need him. And that was the problem. What man wants to be in a relationship where he's not needed? And here I was telling myself, man, look, I cooked, I cleaned, I took care of everything. All you got to do is come home, eat, and pay attention to me. But that's not what they want to do. That's not all they want to do. They want to be needed. They want to be important, right? And so it took a long time to reverse all of the things I was telling myself and understand that I didn't leave room for him to be a man in my relationship. And I was doing everything by myself without him, with his kids without him, because he was busy all the time. But I left nothing for him to take care of at that point. Knowing all this now, I understand what I could potentially do in the next relationship, but that doesn't mean I want to go back either. So I need you guys to understand, sometimes it's not about confronting the other person. How many of y'all have gone back and confronted somebody and not gotten the answers you wanted anyway, just got even more pissed off and walked away? How many of you went back and confronted the other person and got a completely different answer than you were ready for? How many of you can't even get in contact with that person again? So I'm asking you guys, you want to grieve over a relationship, I got it, I understand. You're missing the intimacy, you wish that person would just do what you want them to do, I get it. But guess what, there's this thing called free will. So if they're not available to talk to you, if they're not available to be able to answer your questions, or maybe they are available, but they just don't want to talk about this anymore because they're done fighting you. The only way to heal from this, the only way to grieve, and to figure out what's what, is to ask yourself this question over and over again. Why though? Once you can name that feeling, you need to be able to say why. Why do I feel this? Why this particular feeling? Jealousy? Jealousy means that you've decided in your head that the other person is better than you are, and so you are jealous because how could you compare? That's what jealousy is. It's admitting that you've already decided that person is better than you. Otherwise, why would you be jealous? For example, there was a moment where I was jealous of my kid. Why? Because my husband had so much fun with her and they were having such fun without me. And he loved the hell out of her. The kind of intimacy she got with him, I didn't get. And it's not that I wanted him to be sexually attracted to her, of course, but as a father-daughter connection, that physical connection, the loving, the hugging, the talking, the cooing, the playing, all that, I wanted that. And I've never had it. So for a while, I was jealous of the attention that she got from her dad. Why? Because it was easy for her to get it from him, and I couldn't do anything to save my life and get it from him. So guess what? You got to ask yourself those hard questions. Why do you feel this way? What does that feeling actually mean? If you're paranoid, it's a trust thing, but why don't you trust that person? Is it something that they've done before, that they specifically have done before, that has taught you not to trust people, or is it from a different relationship previous to this? Is it somewhere else in your past that it's taught you not to trust anyone? And if you're not going to trust anybody, why the fuck are you in a relationship? So this is why I need you to dig deep and ask those crazy questions. Ask them. Ask why. And be ready to be honest with yourself. Because once you can really name the feeling and be honest with yourself about what that means, that's when you learn to heal. That's when you learn to rewrite the things that you're telling yourself. That's where you start to forgive yourself for being that person back then and become this new version of yourself now. Now, if you got any questions or concerns, drop them in the comments below. If you have a specific personal question you want to talk to me one-on-one, DM me. Until then, consider this. All of this is in your hands. The meanings you assign things come from you, not anybody else. They come from you. Yes, experience may have taught you, but guess what? Even then, experience is 50-50. It could go this way or that. So you got to work on that. And in the meantime, y'all stay safe. I love you guys. Bye.